Important information that all first-year applicants to Virginia Tech should know. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America, visit areyouontracktogetin.com. Again, that's areyouontracktogetin.com, at which you will complete a free 3-minute assessment. Your results will be emailed to you right away, and they will help you clarify whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America. Virginia Tech is on the Common App, but Virginia Tech does not accept or review responses to the Common App essay. So with that in mind, it's extremely important that you understand that the supplemental writing that you complete on Virginia Tech supplement to the Common App is extremely important. Even though it is short, it is important. Let's review the supplemental essay prompts for the 24-25 admission cycle at Virginia Tech. First, Virginia Tech's motto means that I may serve. Share how you contribute to a community that is important to you. How long have you been involved? What have you learned? And how would you like to share that with others at Virginia Tech? You only have 120 words. And do understand this should not read like a resume entry. This instead should read more emotive. And what I mean by that is don't just state objectively responsibilities that you had in a particular community service initiative. Instead, if you're going to talk about a community service initiative, talk about it more from the perspective of, yes, you can introduce what you accomplished briefly, but then you need to talk about why this was impactful for you, why it has left you a different person than you otherwise would be today had you not engaged in it. Of course, you can and you should indicate how long you were involved, as mentioned. And you also, though, need to remember that you need to explain what you learned and how this will inform your behavior, decisions, and actions moving forward at Virginia Tech. As it is only 120 words, this response, you need to be very efficient. So that means a 1-sentence intro/thesis, a couple sentence body, and a sentence or two conclusion is all you really have space for here. So you definitely want to pack a punch. And remember, don't just share a narrative resume entry. You need to share feelings, growth, and reflection in this short essay as well. The second one is as follows. Virginia Tech's Principles of Community supports access and inclusion by affirming the dignity and value of every person, respecting differences, promoting mutual understanding and open expression, and strives to eliminate bias and discrimination. Have you had an experience when you or someone you know were not being included? Did you reach out to anyone for assistance, direction, or resources? Were you able to affect change and or influence others? Did this experience change your perspective? And if so, how? That's a lot to consider as you have another 120-word response. Here, what I would say is don't bite off more than you can chew. Keep it simple. Let's try to focus on one particular event that, again, really impacted your view of the world moving forward so that you can reflect on not just very briefly describing the incident or experience in which there was lack of inclusion. But then beyond that, you need to reflect on what you did next. Did you sort of intercede in some way, shape, or form? Did you try to seek out help from someone else or others? And also, what was the outcome? What was the outcome for the individual or individuals being excluded? This is highly important. So again, don't just write a police report that this person was treated badly by this person and it was upsetting. Instead, you need to go deeper into what were your actions in response? What did you do? And then also afterward, how has your perspective changed? This is so important because Virginia Tech wants to see that you are going to be someone who doesn't just sit on his or her hands in the face of discrimination, but actually has the toolkit at his or her disposal in order to be a positive force, as Virginia Tech would see it, in terms of doing the right thing, or at least knowing who to turn to, or knowing how to identify the wrong thing happening in its community. So that's important. Again, very brief intro/thesis with a sentence, then digging into the actual event in a sentence or so before you then dovetail or segue into showing the changed version of you that is the result of having lived through or witnessing this particular situation of discrimination or lack of inclusion. Please take it seriously. Regardless of your own personal value system, it's important that you demonstrate here that you intersect and align with the value system of Virginia Tech. The next short answer is share a time when you were most proud of yourself, either as a role model or when you displayed your leadership. What specific skills did you contribute to the experience? How did others rely on you for guidance? What did you learn about yourself during this time? Again, many students will have the knee-jerk reaction of wanting to write a resume entry narratively here. But as you see in the last part of this prompt, you need to also reflect on what you learned about yourself and also show sort of others turning to you potentially for guidance throughout this experience. So whereas a resume entry would just focus on your specific objective accomplishments, this is much more geared to showing impact and how you have changed as a result of this event or experience or time that you are extremely proud of. So again, one sentence intro/thesis, a several sentence body, and then a sentence conclusion is all the room you have, all the space you have room for really here as you respond to this. But by all means, strut your stuff. This is where you can really brag a little bit about a way in which you are someone who has really affected positive change in your community in one way, shape, or form, or in your family, or in some other group that you find yourself. But also, reflect on, again, how this informs your behavior moving forward, because they're trying at Virginia Tech to get a sense of who you will be as a Hokie. And then finally, describe a goal that you have set and the steps you will take to achieve it. What made you set this goal for yourself? What is your timeline to achieve the goal? And also, who do you seek encouragement or guidance from, and how do they support your progress as you work on this goal? This could be a very personal goal in terms of weight loss, in terms of, contributing more to your family in one way, shape, or form. But it could also be a very public goal, like becoming a major league athlete, or trying your hardest to have $300,000 in the bank by the time you turn 30. I don't know what it is, but whatever the case may be, it could be, that's not necessarily public, of course, but that's something that is a little bit more professional and oriented to a lot of what students are thinking about when they're thinking about why they're even investing in a college education to begin with. But whether or not this has to do with your academic interests, your intellectual interests, your professional goals, your financial goals, or other personal goals you set for yourself, Virginia Tech wants to get a sense that you actually know how to work toward a goal in a coherent, cogent, mature way. And it wants to see that you are able to network with at least one other person, if not more, to seek out help, because you could very well find yourself alone in Blacksburg and not so happy for whatever reason. Virginia Tech wants to see that you're going to be able to dig yourself out of that and be able to harness a network or an individual in order to seek the support you need to reach your goals. Whether that to be happier on a daily basis at Virginia Tech, or to succeed in a class you're not currently doing well in, or going to a professor for extra help. They want to get a sense that you have developed a skill set that shows you are capable of actually not just dreaming big, but actually achieving big. One sentence intro/thesis, several sentence body, and then a sentence or so to reflect. You only, again, have 120 words. Make the most of them. I will also note that the Virginia Tech supplement to the Common App is also where you can select that you would be interested in participating in a Virginia Tech Summer Start. That, of course, gives you a slightly larger chance of getting into Virginia Tech. So if Virginia Tech is your dream school and you feel like statistically speaking, you may not be the very best candidate or you may be on the bubble in terms of getting in or not, I do strongly recommend that you seriously consider a summer start opportunity. Of course, early action would be a wise decision too, in order to demonstrate that you have gotten your ducks in a row by an earlier deadline at Virginia Tech. And hopefully all things are in order by November 15th in order for you to apply to Virginia Tech. I will also just note for you that unfortunately, Virginia Tech does require the self-reported academic record. So in addition to completing the actual Common App and the supplement for Virginia Tech on the Common App, you also will need to complete in short order the entire transcription of your transcript on to the SRAR, the self-reported academic record. It is a pain in the butt, time-consuming, but rip it off like a Band-Aid as well as you can so that Virginia Tech can start reviewing your file as efficiently and effectively as possible, hopefully in mid to late November after you apply early action. Now, also on this video today, I do want to show you some very valuable and user-friendly data that you can play around with on the Virginia Tech website to show you the Virginia Tech of today and what acceptance rates and data going back actually 13 years looks like, 12, 13 years basically. Take a look at this. Virginia Tech for the class of 2028 for first-year applicants had an overall acceptance rate of 54.7%. Back in 2020, for the students entering in fall of 2020, these are the students who graduated in 2024. The acceptance rate was 65.7%. So this is an institution that's becoming more selective. If you look at this information as well, you'll note that for the entering class in 2021, when we started to see a real uptick in actual numbers of applications, that year there were 41,995 first-year applications, whereas the year before there were only 30,710 first-year applications. That was because Virginia Tech joined the Common App. And so you see with every passing year, Virginia Tech is becoming more popular to apply to as more and more students realize they can apply to Virginia Tech on the Common App. Of course, Virginia Tech also went test optional during this time frame, and you also will note that there will be some changes in acceptance rates, which I'll show you in a moment on a more micro level. But overall, what you're seeing here is that a school that for many years had an acceptance rate for first-year applicants in the 70s, the low 70s, in the 2020s has started to have an acceptance rate pretty consistently now in the 50s. So Virginia Tech has become a more selective school. This data, again, is showing you for fall entry, first year bachelor's seeking applicants, this is the acceptance rate information. Now, if I want to play around with other demographic data, just to play around and give you a sense of your particular chances of getting into Virginia Tech, and again, everyone is an individual, so these are averages. This is data at a macro level, but let's take a look at for females. You see for females, the acceptance rate is still a little bit higher. It's closer to 60% for the class of 2028. The female acceptance rate as first-year applicants are higher. It's higher. It's simply higher than it is for males. We had in the 23-24 admission cycle, 22,228 females apply to Virginia Tech. And they had a 58%, basically a 59% acceptance rate. But let's look at males. We had 30,000 males apply during the 23-24 admission cycle. These are the students entering in fall 2024. And they had an acceptance rate of 51.6%. More men are applying, and they have a lower acceptance rate because Virginia Tech is trying to create a more balanced male-female ratio. Now let's look at race and ethnicity information, starting with American Indian or Alaska Native. For the most recent admissions cycle, we see a big drop in the percentage acceptance rate of this demographic group, only 33.8%. This, of course, has something to do with the decision by the Supreme Court of the United States of America related to race and ethnicity-based preferences in the college admissions process. Next, we're going to take a look at Asian acceptance rate. That has remained more consistent even after the Supreme Court decision. We see that Asian applicants to Virginia Tech are getting in at roughly a couple percentage points lower than the overall acceptance rate at Virginia Tech. And that's pretty consistent for the last several years during the regime that is the Common App being accepted at Virginia Tech. Take a look at Black or African American numbers. We see that, again, there was a drop similar to Alaska Natives and American Indians in the last cycle, down to 34.8%, even as more apply for admission from one year to the next. Hispanics of any race also dropped from 63.7% acceptance rate for the class of 2027 to a 45% acceptance rate for the class of 2028. The other information you're seeing on all these charts is the yield rate. That means what percentage of those offered admission actually enrolled ultimately at Virginia Tech and accepted the offer of admission and enrolled. And in terms of white numbers, which are the largest demographic group still applying to Virginia Tech, we see that the acceptance rate did tick up a bit in the last cycle for white students, going from 55.5% to 59% in the course of one admission cycle. But again, still below what was the acceptance rate pre-test optional, pre-Common App back in the early 21st century. But we're not done yet. Let's take a look now at in-state versus out-of-state. I did a video several months ago about in-state insults that particular colleges and universities that are public provide their residents, and Virginia Tech would be on that list, because what you will see is that the in-state acceptance rate at Virginia Tech is only 47.5% from the last cycle. This is very close to the year before and the year before that. So as an in-state applicant, your shot of getting in is less than 1 in 2. So this is a selective school if you're a Virginia resident. Let's take a look at out-of-state acceptance rates. Look at that. It's higher than the overall acceptance rate. This is wild. So similar to some other schools that have insulting approach to their in-state residents, having a higher acceptance rate for out-of-state students at Virginia Tech than in-state students. Let's take a look at international. The international acceptance rate is even higher than the American citizen acceptance rate. They really want international students at Virginia Tech. As you see, that acceptance rate is 66.5%. That is over 10 points higher than the acceptance rate overall. And as you see, this now is the acceptance rate for those who are not international, 53.5%. Quite interesting at Virginia Tech. But I'm not done yet. Here we're going to look at actual acceptance rate by school applied to and accepted into at Virginia Tech, starting with the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. That acceptance rate was 58.8% in 2023-24. Those are the students entering during the 24-25 academic year. So that acceptance rate at the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences is slightly higher than the overall acceptance rate at Virginia Tech. But what about the College of Architecture, Arts, and Design? That acceptance rate is quite a bit lower than the average acceptance rate. That's only an acceptance rate of 38.2%. That's one of the more selective programs or schools over at Virginia Tech. What about the Pamplin College of Business? You see the acceptance rate, again, slightly lower than the overall acceptance rate. Their acceptance rate is only 50.2% at the Pamplin College of Business. The College of Engineering has a 54.4% acceptance rate, very much the average of the overall acceptance rates that we saw earlier of all first-year applicants for fall admission. For intercollege, the acceptance rate is 44.1%. And for the College of Liberal Arts and Human Sciences, the acceptance rate is 53.6%. And then for the College of Science, the acceptance rate is quite a bit higher, 65.9%. What about for the College of Veterinary Medicine? We have much smaller numbers. That acceptance rate is 56.4%. And then finally, the College of Natural Resources and Environment, we have an acceptance rate of 68%. So this is important information to know before you complete your supplement and, think holistically about what your goals are at Virginia Tech, who you are, what you want to get out of the experience. All of this information is very valuable to assimilate into your mind and body before you hit submit on your Virginia Tech application. When you finish your Common App for Virginia Tech and you want to know whether or not in its current condition your chances of admission are impressive, inconclusive, or inadequate, you need my pre-read. Getting my pre-read now means having me review your entire application, just like an admissions officer or admissions committee will review it later, and receiving by email no later than the time you reserve a comprehensive report highlighting what's working and what's not on your full Common App and your Virginia Tech Common App supplement. If you've yet to submit your Common App to Virginia Tech, my pre-read may motivate you to make adjustments to it before your deadline. If you've already submitted your Common App to Virginia Tech, my pre-read will prepare you for what I deem to be your likely admissions outcome at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. To purchase my pre-read now, go to mypreread.com. Again, that's mypreread.com. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process, go to my website, which is collegemeister.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.